Now we're good to go.
Okay, good morning. Welcome to the SLDC Board of Directors meeting, May 15th, 2025. Laura, may I have a call to order? Roll call.
Sure. Director Arnold. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Here. Director Gilbert.
That is Sarah.
I think you're muted, Director Gilbert.
Good, Laura.
Is that
I recognize her as being present.
Is Laura, is she here?
She's top left.
yeah,
on the screen.
Director Gilbert, you're on mute if you're
Oh, there you are.
speaking.
Aye.
Okay.
Cover all your bases.
All right. Director Koenig.
Koenig.
Present.
Director McBride.
Present.
Alderwoman Saulnier. Director Spencer.
Present.
Director Reed. Director Arnold.
Present.
And Chair Halls.
Present.
All right, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Laura.
This is Laura Gilbert. I'm here as well. I didn't hear my name at the beginning of the roll call. Sorry.
Thank you, Laura.
Laura, we also have Lori Koenig.
Yeah, oh, sorry, Director Koenig, did I get your response?
Yeah, I'm sorry. My typing was poor this morning. It is Koenig. Thanks for
Koenig.
asking.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. In your packet are the minutes from the May 1st, 2025 regular board meeting. May I have a motion to approve?
So move McBride.
Second. Arnold.
Director Arnold.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Aye. Director Gilbert.
Aye.
Director Koenig.
Abstain.
Director McBride.
Aye.
Director Spencer.
Aye.
And Chair Halls.
Aye. Next on the agenda, resolution number 25, SLDC 1021, authorizing grant for downtown retail incentive program. Steve Davis.
Thank you, Chairman Hawes, and good morning, Board of Directors. As mentioned, this resolution would authorize additional funding for the Downtown Retail Incentives Program that SLDC and GSL collaborated on last year. So in alignment with the 2019 Design Downtown Plan, we know it was necessary to find and create new resources to support businesses downtown and ensure that we are providing amenities and a thriving environment for our residents and businesses. So some quick background, we launched this program in May of 2024 last year. And really no surprise to us, there was considerable demand for this type of program. I think within the first 4 weeks, we had over 40 inquiries about the 4 programs that we stood up, one being a rent guarantee program, a grant for tenant improvements, grant for pop-up businesses, and then a sidewalk cafe program really designed to help restaurants spill their business out onto the sidewalk. And without giving away the names of the businesses, quite a few of them were, household St. Louis brand retailers that were interested in coming downtown. And so I do think it's important that we continue the momentum with this program and renew funding for another year this summer in 2025. And so SLDC's funding is not to exceed $100,000, while GSL is providing a match of $300,000 as well. And I should mention too, with the past year in the first round of funding, we were able to support over 11 businesses to the tune of $300,000. So it was quite an impactful program. So I'll pause there and happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
This is a program that's been oversubscribed last year.
Absolutely. The demand certainly exceeded the resources we have, and I think that's why it's so important to make sure that we make another round available.
Steve, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Steve, how is it working with permitting for the sidewalk expansion?
So that's something we would work with our business assistance center on.
Okay.
You know, Levels Nigerian Cuisine was one of the businesses that we supported with the sidewalk program. I would defer to them on how that process went for them, and I'm happy to provide more information at your request.
Thank you.
Does GSL, do they manage the program or does SLDC? You
It's
guys
co-managed.
coordination?
So myself, Caressa Davis, who's spearheading a lot of our retail programs, Kurt Weigel, and then Kevin Wilson with SBDC. We're the review committee for this program.
And is there any talk about helping the existing businesses instead of?
This is for both.
It is for both.
Yeah, so this
Okay.
isn't just for new businesses coming to downtown. You know, as I just mentioned, Levels Cuisine was an existing business that we supported. Buddy's Wine Bar, we helped support. So there were several existing businesses that we provided funding for tenant improvements and things like that, new equipment. But also we saw the majority were new businesses that wanted to be downtown. Yeah.
Gotcha. Thanks for the clarity. And on the tenant improvements, is that amount of money, is that enough to satisfy what it costs to build these? They're so long and,
Yeah.
you know, there's a lot of space to consider there.
You know, obviously I think, you know, the businesses would like to have more money to help with their tenant improvements. I think that's obvious, but I do think the 50,000 that was provided, especially like Buddy's Wine Bar, was enough to get them over the hill to make to get their business open and make sure that their businesses could stay and be successful and not fizzle out quickly, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're connected with a lender and somebody that's willing to back the business.
Absolutely.
Because they can leverage some of that,
Yep.
that investment. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I can, this program is definitely a good one, and it's similar to the one that we had in 2004, but the ceiling was 25,000, and it really led to the filling out of first floor businesses on Washington at that time, and so I wholeheartedly support continuing this program.
Absolutely. And I'll just mention that the majority of the businesses that were supported are on Wash Ave. But as we're thinking about infrastructure improvements that are happening, such as the 7th Street connector, if we can find a way to ensure that this program continues and is successful, I think it'll be a great help to fill those retail spaces. Any other questions?
Right. Thank you, Steve.
All right.
May I have a motion to approve Resolution 25 SLDC 1021?
So moved. Spencer?
Second.
Clark Hubbard.
Thank you. Approved.
Director Arnold,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Aye. Director Gilbert.
Frozen.
Laura, I think you're on mute.
No, my sound was kicking in and out. So
Okay.
Okay,
sorry. You asked for my vote. Aye.
thank you. Director Koenig,
Aye.
Director McBride,
Aye.
Alderwoman Saunier,
Aye.
Director Spencer,
Aye.
and Chair Halls.
Aye. Thank you. Resolution 25 SLDC 1022, authorizing execution of an agreement for dispersing services for approved facade improvement projects in the North St. Louis City Small Business and Nonprofit Grant Program.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Dylan Holly. I'm Citywide Housing Strategist, and thank you, Chair Halls. I am requesting the execution of the agreement for dispersing services for the facade program for the North City Grant. As you know, the North City Grant has been walking through a process of working through due diligence for our applications, and we've gone through one round of conditional awards. Within that first round, we have 17 facade awards up to $100,000. We've also identified an additional 25 businesses in the second round that we would need to provide support for as well. And with this, in order to streamline our services and really do one clean swoop of kind of documentation, we're really requesting that we move it into an agreement with Accurate Dispersing in order that they would be our leading agent in terms of dealing with the disbursement activity. And so doing that in one swoop will really streamline our processes and help these businesses kind of get moving and get the funds out the door a little bit quicker. And so we are requesting that we set aside $50,000 for the disbursement services activity. We've initiated an RFP. We got one response back from Accurate Dispersing Services. This is great because they already have a relationship with the city. They're familiar with some of those processes, and their rates were really amenable to what we want to see happen. And so our request is that we would move into this agreement with them so that we could provide disbursement services, not just for round one candidates, but for round two candidates as well.
is the $50,000 for both rounds or just round one?
As for both rounds,
Okay.
it would be for 42 businesses,
Okay.
17 in the first round and 25 in the second round.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You repeat that number, 40.
17 in the first round and 25 in the second, totaling the 42 total facade business applications or conditional awards. And they don't exceed $100,000.
So this is a program I've worked with for 15 or 20 years, and it's one of the most complicated and difficult programs to administer because of the federal funds and doing actual construction work. Can you tell us where we are with those applications? Have they been bid by multiple contractors? Do you have solid numbers? Or are these just estimates on what it could cost? And now they're going to go out with the award and go do the actual.
No,
bidding?
yeah, the first rounds that we have concrete numbers, and we really want to get to the nitty gritty so that we can start to get to a place to get the dollars out the door. The first round applications have submitted their conditional budget, but now we've asked for a consecrated budget on our spreadsheets and all of those things,
Right.
just to make it easier, the codification easier to review, so we can get moving a little bit quicker. But no, we are dealing with real numbers now. We have been connecting individuals to the NEC and the plan room to put bids out and really just trying to connect as many resources as they can to get contractors if they don't have them already.
Yeah, I think that's the other point I wanted to make is how difficult it is to find contractors to do such small jobs.
And
So.
the difficult part was, right, the timeline of this program, right? You get a bid in so-and-so year, and now we're in 2026, the bid may not look the same, right? So really wanting to be amenable to kind of those kind of difficulties, right, through the timeline, so.
And I want to commend you for looking at dispersing and having draws. It backs up the work that you're doing and the processes. And it also takes something off of somebody else's plate that might have been doing it here. So I think that's a really smart way to move forward. Good luck with it. It is going to be a lot of time and a lot of effort, but the end result typically is, a benefit to the community.
Yes,
But it's a difficult program to manage.
We're gonna move, we're gonna get there.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have a motion to approve resolution 25.
Motion to approve. So moved.
I'll second resolution 25 SLDC 1022. Put it in the record.
Right.
Okay. Director Arnold,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard,
I recuse myself.
Director Gilbert,
Aye.
Director Koenig,
Aye.
Director McBride.
Aye.
Alderwoman Sonia,
Aye.
Director Spencer,
Aye.
and Chair Halls.
Aye. So moved.
Excuse me.
Did you
Pardon me?
call?
You missed Gilbert, I believe.
Director Gilbert?
Did I?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry. Director Gilbert? Okay.
Aye.
All right.
2 times.
Okay. All right, approved. Thank you so much. Next up is resolution number 25, SLDC 1023, authorizing issuance of a request for proposals for an executive search firm and establishing a selection committee to review, select, and recommend proposals for an executive search. Welcome, Otis.
Hey, good morning. And thank you very much. I think most of you know me, and stand back at this podium is sort of reflective of a number of years. So forgive me with a little deja vu. So I think most of you know that I'm here as an interim president and CEO. And one of the charges that I have is to lead a process, or at least establish a process that would allow us to acquire a national search firm that would find candidates for the mayor to select a new president and CEO for this organization. And so this resolution essentially asks the board to approve and the process that we would like to go through, essentially authorizing the issuance of a request for a proposal for an executive search firm and establishing a selection committee to review, select, and recommend proposals for the executive search firm. Any questions?
Who's paying for it?
We SLDC would be paying for it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Williams. May I have a motion to approve resolution number 25, SLDC 1023?
So moved.
Second.
Director Arnold,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard,
Aye.
Director Gilbert,
Aye.
Director Koenig,
Aye.
Director McBride,
Aye.
Alderwoman Saulnier,
Aye.
Director Spencer,
Aye.
and Chair Halls.
Aye. Okay, thank you very much. I'm not sure if we're switching this agenda to go into executive session at this time. Okay,
Yeah, so it would be appropriate at this time to ask for a motion to enter closed session pursuant to section 610-021, subsections 1, 12, and 13 as reflected in the agenda.
okay. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Director Arnold,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard,
Aye.
Director Gilbert,
Aye.
Director Koenig,
Aye.
Director McBride,
Aye.
Alderwoman Saulnier,
Aye.
Director Spencer,
Aye.
and Chair Halls.
Aye. Okay, welcome back. We're returning to the open agenda of the Board of Directors meeting, May 15th, 2025. And next up would be Stephanie Greasy reporting on Project Connect. Stephanie?
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having us today and welcome Director Koenig to the board. I'm here to introduce Dan Doka and Lexi Bogdanovich from Interborough Partners, who will give an exciting update on our progress with Project Connect. Before Dan and Lexi get into their presentation, just want to share some background. For some of our newer board members, Project Connect is a City of St. Louis initiative that began in 2017 after NGA selected its new development site in North St. Louis City. Project Connect was created to identify priority investments to keep existing residents and businesses in the area and to encourage new growth over time. The Project Connect action plan recommended how to carry out the goals of Project Connect. And one recommendation was to create community-driven neighborhood plans for Hyde Park, St. Louis Place, Old North St. Louis, Columbus Square, Carr Square, and Jeff Vanderloo, the 6 neighborhoods surrounding the NGA site. That effort is referred to as Our Plan. The Our Plan work began in December 2021 with our original planning consultant, but based on some stakeholder feedback, SLDC ended its relationship with them in July 2023 and moved to a more collaborative and community-led planning model. Under the new model, SLDC published a new RFP in early 2024, seeking a consulting team that would step in where the prior one left off, guide the neighborhood planning process, capture the vision and voice of the neighborhoods, attract investment and resources, and most importantly, move this process to completion. In April and May of 2024, our internal committees reviewed the submissions and the board approved Interboro as the new consultant and authorized a subrecipient agreement with CDA to secure about $420,000 in 2024 CDBG grant funds to cover the services. The agreements were finalized in August and September of 2024, and planning relaunched in earnest in early October. So Interboro will speak to the progress made since the fall, the planning documents, the implementation framework, the adoption timeline, and key next steps, including how they're working to reflect the new administration's priorities in the plan documents. While the process does not require board approval, we wanted to share this exciting progress with you all and provide enough time for your review and comment before the plans are submitted for approval later in the summer. Before I wrap up, I wanted to thank the Interboro team and their partners at Key Strategic Group. We've been seeing fantastic engagement from the communities, and their feedback has been both productive and hopeful for what lies ahead. The team held its last NPC meeting on Monday night, and the audience was positive and active. This is all due to their commitment to this massive project. We've also been grateful for the collaboration from Miriam Keller and Jonathan Roper at PDA, who have shared some really important knowledge and experience about the city's planning process. And finally, special thanks to Curtis Griggs and Melissa Garcia here at SLDC, who have been doing an incredible job managing this project, managing the nuances of the contract, all on behalf of our organization. I'm really not sure anyone could have estimated the time and scope of this undertaking, but ever since Curtis and Melissa started actively working on this back in the late summer, they've been pushing for high quality, community-centered and implementable plans. They've taken on this effort with full smiles, and it's been really fun to see their hard work pay off. So thanks to everyone. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Dan and Lexi.
Thanks so much, Stephanie. So I'm Dan Dioka. I'm a principal and co-founder of Interboro, and we've had the pleasure of leading this project. It's a challenging project, but we've really enjoyed working on it, and we have a great team. I want to reiterate everything Stephanie said about how good the team has been. And I just want to say it's an honor to have this chance to update you on our progress. I'm going to invite Lexi to share the slides. Lexi, do you want to just quickly say hi and introduce yourself at the same time?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Lexi Bogdanovich with Interboro Partners, and I'm the project manager on the Our Plan initiative. And we've been working with KSG, who's, like Stephanie said, has been doing all the engagement. So I'll kick it over to Jessica Payne.
Hi, I'm Jessica Payne with Key Strategic Group. We are also working with our engagement lead, Jessica Warnley, the other Jessica.
Hello, I'm Jessica Warnley, part of the Key Strategic Group.
All right, can everybody see the slides? Oh, okay. Great.
Yeah, thanks, Lexi. You can go to the next slide, which will just tell you a little bit about what we're planning to do today. So you heard a little bit of an update and an introduction from Stephanie. We're just going to give you a quick update on where we are. So we're going to go into the existing conditions, the market analysis, and the draft plans. We're going to talk to you a little bit about the engagement we've been doing, and then we're going to talk about next steps. Next slide. So we're going to start with the kind of overview of the process. The team, you just met a good chunk of the team. Code Studio, who's leading the zoning overhaul, is also on our team, and they've been helping us with some zoning recommendations, which we'll actually talk about today. Next slide. We're nearing the end. You can see that we are here circled there in May. So we've completed existing conditions analysis, just about wrapped up the market analysis, and are in the process of drafting the plan. We've got a 90% plan draft, which I believe has been shared with you. And we're targeting adoption in June, if everything goes well. Next slide. So with that, we want to give you a sense of some of the engagement we've been doing, and for that, I'm going to turn it over to our friends at Key Strategic Group.
All right, thanks, Dan. So you'll see just a collage of photos of all the meetings and maps that were part of this engagement process, but we can go to the next slide. We wanted to take some time before we dive into what we're learning and where we're at with this process to really talk about the beginning part of when we stepped in. As you can see in the timeline, there was a gap between where the previous consultants left off and where we picked things up. And when we picked up, there was a new consulting team and there were also some new faces at SLDC. So we had, or SLDC, so we had to really work together to rebuild and cultivate that trust. So the first few meetings were really about listening to what folks were saying and letting them convey any of the all the feedback that they had about the first part of the process and about the gap that happened in between the first team and the second team. And the active part is really responding to what folks were saying. So we had a public meeting in October where we made sure to write down all the comments and capture all the comments that were stated and reply with written responses, right? So that they were on record and people could see, we heard you, and here are our responses to your concerns. We also really early on made sure that we set expectations. We showed our updated timeline and let folks know what they could expect from us so that they could then hold us accountable to that. It was loud and clear that we needed to have open communication between the community and particularly the NPC members. So we really worked to prioritize transparency. We made sure that we had a phone number so that we were easy to reach. Made sure that we responded to emails on a timely basis so they knew that they could communicate with us on an ongoing basis in between those meetings. And we found opportunities to foster accountability. So again, we said, this is what we're going to do. Hold us accountable to this. So each meeting we said, this is what we're going to do in this meeting. This is what's next. This is what you can expect, so that they had a way to measure whether or not we were on track and could hold us accountable to that. And then it was really about just being consistent from there. So slowly but surely, we did rebuild that trust. And we, without prompting, now we can say folks have walked up to us after meetings and have said, I trust you. And that was a very big growth for the process. So, before we could jump into everything, that was a key part to build the foundation. We can go to the next slide. This is just a snapshot of the NPC roles. So the Neighborhood Planning Committee was responsible for setting the direction and providing the overall guidance to the process, which is, again, why it was so important to really re-engage them as we kick things off again. They were also responsible for helping to engage their own neighbors in the planning process. They've been helping to draft, revise, and approve these plans, and we've been meeting with them on a monthly basis. For the community, their role was really to provide that feedback with the plans. And if we can go to the next slide. This is what some of our engagement looked like. So in addition to the neighborhood planning meetings, we held 3 open houses. We had pop-ups in each of the neighborhoods where we attended different events or specific areas where we would canvass. We also had neighborhood meetings. We attended neighborhood meetings. So a few of the neighborhoods had regular neighborhood association meetings that we attended on a regular basis. We held stakeholder meetings. So we met with folks from city departments and other partners who we knew would be really key in implementing these plans. So we wanted to get those conversations started so that we could share data and also get their insight as we develop the plans. Canvassing, which I mentioned earlier, our online and social media platforms, which will help to provide a space even after these plans are implemented to show folks like where we're at and how things are progressing. And we also had some events that were focused on youth. And I also want to note that in our open houses, we held those at family and youth centers so that we could have more youth engagement in those as well. Okay, so these are just some of the numbers. There was a lot of engagement that happened earlier on that we built off of. So there were a lot of different engagement activities, planning forums, public meetings. And then when we picked it up, we did those activities that I just listed. We can go to the next slide. Again, we had our website in place, social media, and those will be places that can continue even after the planning piece ends. We also had monthly newsletters to let community members know where we're at and how to get plugged in. So we would announce when our next open houses were and just different ways that they can get involved. In our meetings, so the first part of the process that was led by the previous consulting team was they created the foundation that included the visions for each of the neighborhoods, the goals, and some objectives. So we built off of that and first asked folks, does this still make sense? Is this still relevant? And then we began to build on it. And so we had lots of mapping activities at our NPC meetings and open houses. And this is some specific examples here where we showed a vacancy map, so a map of vacant properties. And we asked folks specifically to map where they would see certain things. Like, where do you want to see single family housing versus multifamily housing? Where do you want to see small businesses versus larger retail stores? We can go to the next slide. We can move to the next slide, Lexi. Yeah, these are just some examples of what, again, what some of those mapping activities look like. This one was around zoning. So as you all know, the city is undergoing an overhaul of the zoning. And so we wanted to make sure that that was in alignment with the plan, that the plan was in alignment with that, and that our residents could speak to that process as well. So we had a couple of meetings where we focused on zoning to make sure that it made sense and aligned with what the neighbors said that they wanted in their neighborhoods. We really focused on the pathway to adoption. So a big part of this process was also educating residents on what it takes to get a plan adopted. And so we really simplified that, broke it down, created visuals so that they could see how close they were and where the gaps were in terms of getting their plan adopted. So this is just one example that showed these are some of the areas that need to be addressed in a plan and some of the objectives that would speak to that. So folks could see, okay, we only have a couple here, maybe we need to firm that up a bit. And again, these are all the ways that we created for NPC members and the broader community to reach out to us throughout this process. Great, thanks. I'll pass it back over to Interboro.
Thank you, Jessica. A correction. I said we're aiming for a June adoption. I meant July. Sorry about that. So what you're looking at is just the table of contents. Again, you got a draft of this. You just heard a little bit about the community engagement. I'm going to say just a couple brief words about the existing conditions analysis. Next slide. So we have pretty robust existing conditions analysis that looks at a range of issues, really at 3 scales. So some things we look at at a citywide scale, other things we map at a project connect area scale, and then other things we look at a neighborhood scale. I'm not going to go through this in too much detail, but some quick takeaways that may or may not surprise you. The area, sorry, Lexi, stay on that previous slide. The area continues to lose population. It's actually down to 14,200, down from 17,643 in 2010. So it's a decrease of almost 20% versus a 7% rate for the city. The area is aging. So from 2010 to 2024, the median age increased 10 years. That was a surprising finding to us. The racial makeup is pretty stable, hovering at about 90% Black or African American. The median incomes, I think, as most folks know, pretty low. 30% of the households earn less than $15,000. Half of the households earn less than $30,000. Something else that was interesting to learn is that the majority of households in the Project Connect area are one-person households. In fact, 54.3% of the households are single-family householders. Compare that with 39% for the city. Something else, vacancy. The vacancy rate for the city is 23%. The vacancy rate for one of the neighborhoods, JVL, is 56%. Dealing with a lot of vacancy. That'll surprise no one here. Next slide. We also, part of the existing conditions analysis, are looking at existing plans and investments and understanding what those mean for the neighborhood going forward. Next slide. We're also looking at physical things. We're not just looking at demographics. We're looking at building footprints, where you could see the toll that mid-century development and urban renewal had on the fabric. You could see that even by looking at the urban blocks. You could see the big grid disruptions and things. Of course, we're looking at flooding and tree canopy and all kinds of things. Next slide. A big part of the existing conditions analysis is a market study. And I'm going to hand it over to our friends at KSG to just say a couple quick words about what we're learning through the market analysis.
Thanks, Dan. As no surprise to anybody on this call, I'm sure the market analysis revealed that we have a very tough market in Project Connect. This plan is focused on a lot of market building strategies because of the current conditions. Next slide, please. What does that look like currently? So housing demand, as Dan stated, we have pretty extreme vacancy rates. Pretty significant appraisal gap crisis in the area. You can see in 63106 and 63107 in 2024, the median sales value was just $96,000 or $61 per square foot, which is well below the St. Louis average of $196,000 average list price. We have very low sales volume. There are only 6 homes sold in 63106 in 2024 and 43 in 63107 during 2024. So the market isn't really moving. We also have distressed property dominance within those sales. The low sales values tell us that most of those homes that were sold, especially in 63107, were vacant or in severe need of rehab to get them back into livable condition. The office market as well currently is made up of mostly government or institutional users, social service providers, and small-scale administrative space, mostly serving local businesses and organizations. Also not a lot of retail or office space on the market currently in the footprint, and the office space that is on the market, most of it does need significant rehab as well. For retail, most of the currently existing retail in the neighborhood is made up of convenience retail, small neighborhood serving retail. There's a pretty significant food and grocery gap in the area. Most of that leakage goes outside of the footprint, well outside of the footprint for grocery shopping. And there is some legacy specialty retail like Crown Candy or Mark's Hardware, or Pikatowski's, and Hyde Park. But what this could look like through development, next slide, is we have a lot of advantages. We have affordability advantage. That vacancy means we can acquire property at lower rates. It's a little bit easier, lower barrier to entry. We are very close to lots of things in Project Connect, very close to downtown, major employment centers, and that creates a unique value proposition for commuters. We also have a scale opportunity with over 1,500 vacant lots in buildings, actually over 2,000. We have a pretty interesting prospect for development at scale that's not available in other parts of the city. Where we think there's the most potential in the near future is developing workforce housing at 80 to 20% of the AMI, small scale neighborhood retail serving daily needs, which will also help meet the needs of new influx of workers coming in from the NGA, flexible office or workspace, supporting that small business, and then institutional use is complementary to the NGA. That NGA employment impact, that's 3,000 new workers per day coming into the region, where we currently only have about 5,000 workers per day coming into the region. So that's a pretty significant increase. There's recent comparable success in housing in other parts of the region that lead us to believe adopting some of those infill housing efforts could lead to success in this region. We also have typology potential here for housing, estimated between 900 and 1,600 total housing unit capacity over 10 to 15 years. And that's a mix of single family, new townhomes, small multifamily as well. Oh, Lexi, we lost our slides.
Sorry, 1 second. Something popped up on my screen and
I will add, we also
sorry.
need a mix of affordable and market rate housing to serve diverse incomes, making sure that we're building for the residents who are there currently who might want to move into ownership options, but also attracting that new tax base that will help stabilize the market. For office space,
Go
go ahead, Dan. I was going to say for
No,
office space, we have NGA-related contractors is a big potential. We think the area might be able to capture about 70% of that market, knowing that there's current efforts in downtown North to attract some of those businesses. There's also a great potential for spaces supporting workforce development, education pipeline, healthcare services that could be connected to the planned medical district, and great opportunity for small business incubation. So space for emerging entrepreneurs with community connections and again, connections to the geospatial industry. We think there could be development capacity of 96,000 to 130,000 square feet over the next 5 to 7 years with NGA related uses as most likely the strongest growth segment. For retail, there are predicted increases through 2029. The most prime opportunities are again convenience and food service that would serve both residents, but also that increased workforce that will be in the area. Again, neighborhood serving retail, especially a potential for new grocery services with the vacant Greenleaf Market. There's a prime opportunity to attract a new tenant to that space. Commercial corridor revitalization is also key, particularly along Martin Luther King Drive, Salisbury, North Grand, and St. Louis Avenue. And then strengthening those local businesses that are already here, like the facade improvement grant that you all were speaking about earlier. I think that's it for me, Dan.
Yeah, thanks, JP. So Lexi, you can stay on this slide for a sec. I know we only have a couple minutes. Not this slide, Lexi, the next one. Thanks. I know we only have a couple minutes, so I'm going to just take you through some planning updates real quick. I think you heard from JP that we're optimistic and about the neighborhood. The more time we spend there, the more we love it. We love the people. We love the architecture. We're trying to strike a balance between being optimistic and being realistic. We all know how many challenges there are. So I just want to just read a quick sentence or two from our introduction. These historic neighborhoods stand at a pivotal moment where intentional investment can reverse decades of disinvestment and neglect. The Project Connect communities possess remarkable resilience, architectural significance, strategic location advantages, and committed stakeholders that create fertile ground for transformation. Okay, so with that in mind, let's look at a couple things that are being proposed. Next slide, please. I think I just want to say a quick word about like some of our guiding principles. The first one, actually, that's not even on here, is to be responsive. I think you heard that from JW earlier. At the heart of this plan is the idea that every recommendation has to be deeply responsive to the needs, the values, and the priorities expressed by people in the community. Be urban. So, like the sloop, which we also worked on, it's a course correction. We want to embrace and reinforce qualities that make the Project Connect area distinctly urban, dense, walkable, community-oriented. We want to align with investments. So we want to coordinate with ongoing and planned initiatives. We want to amplify impact, ensure that new development supports long-term community goals. We want to be strategic. So we want to prioritize investments and objectives that advance community-driven goals in ways that are mutually reinforcing. Restore and repair. So we want to use this plan to the extent possible to reverse the trajectory by prioritizing targeted community-driven investments designed to restore the neighborhood's vitality, repair historic harms, and lay the groundwork for inclusive long-term prosperity. And we want to ensure that development has local benefits. You know, the NGA, other large scale developments like it, they offer obvious regional advantages. They create jobs, attract investment, expand the city's tax base, etc. But it's important to consider how these major projects can directly benefit the people who live in the surrounding neighborhoods. Okay, so on the next slide, you will see a framework map. And I'm not going to go into too much detail, but so, you know, we always make framework maps as a part of all our neighborhood plans. We want to make sure that what we're recommending is not just a collection of individual projects, but a cohesive strategy designed to create ripple effects so that progress in one area fuels progress in others. So this plan offers a kind of high-level view of the proposed plan. That key is very small, but it consists of connective corridors, high-volume mixed-use corridors that connect neighborhoods that we think should be prioritized for safety improvements, infill development. There's proposed open space connections. So these are green trails that connect parks and other community assets. There are opportunity sites ranked low, medium, and high for major redevelopment. There are nodes, those are those circles that are kind of recognizable intersections where a concentration of denser mixed-use development is planned. So that's kind of very general. Let's look at each neighborhood and say, I just want to say a couple words about some of the priority projects that are emerging or that have emerged in each community. So Carr Square, for example, so on this next slide, you'll see every neighborhood gets this kind of treatment. There's an array of there's a vision, and then there's an array of goals and objectives. And the objectives are in housing, transportation, all of the required planning topics. So I'm not going to go through each one. The ones that are starred here are the ones that we're calling catalyst projects. So for Carr Square, we're talking about the rehabilitation or the adaptive reuse of Carr School. I know that idea has been around for a while. We also know that it's not feasible given to repair it given the damage. But doing something with that site is a priority for the community, as is upgrading the community center, as is adding infill development in Carr Square Village. So if you go to the next slide, just very high level idea about how we could take these different investments and kind of cluster them into one larger idea, right? So what we have is an extension of the Biddle Street Greenway that serves as a spine that's connecting all those things I just mentioned. So the community center, the infill development. We think that this could be a really nice amenity for the neighborhood. So the Biddle Street Greenway isn't really a one-off, but it's a kind of connector that connects all these new existing and proposed community objectives. Next slide. So you'll see throughout this a lot of kind of views of what some of this stuff will look like. Next slide, please. So Columbus Square, again, lots of different goals and objectives. We think that when it comes to Columbus Square, just at a high level, there is housing demand potential. I think it's the strongest market conditions due basically to the downtown proximity. So there's a potential here to achieve higher price points compared to other Project Connect neighborhoods. It's near the Bottle District, which is a major development opportunity. And it also has the Biddle Street Greenway, which we see as a good thing to build on. Next slide. So these are the priority projects that we've discussed with the neighborhood: the redevelopment of the Bottle District, the extension of the Biddle Street Greenway, and the adaptive reuse of the church on 9th Street. Next slide. Here you get just a sense of this is kind of very long term. We wanted to spell out. We don't know what's going to happen to the Bottle District, which you see on the right here, but we did want to translate some community concerns about how the Bottle District might be developed. Keep the streets going, keep the Biddle Street Greenway going through it. Don't wall it off. Don't turn it into a big campus. Have urban buildings that front the neighborhood and meet it where it's at. But you also see here, again, the extension of that Biddle Street Greenway connecting a lot of different open spaces. So along it. Another priority for the community, next slide, is this intersection of Cass and Tucker. Now, the Cass Improvement Project actually stops at Tucker. We think that, and along with the community, a case could be made to continue that eastward and to really rethink this. This is a major gateway for the city. And so this is a long way off, and we're showing development scenarios that are quite a way off. But in terms of how you might rethink this intersection, we were thinking something like this. Next slide. And here's just a view of what that extended Biddle Street Greenway looks like with the Bottle District in the distance. So it's not overwhelming the neighborhood. It's meeting it where it's at. Next slide. Yeah. So
Dan,
when it
I'm
comes
sorry.
to
Dan, can you hear me? I'm sorry, this is Stephanie. I'm
I-
going to interrupt you and just
Sure.
for the interest of time, this meeting does run until 10. So Chair Hawes, I just wanted to see if you're comfortable with this continuing, if you'd like us to postpone the rest of the conversation. I want to be mindful of everyone else's time on this call.
Stephanie, thanks so much for asking. I think the question is how much more time? I am certainly open to extending it to finish if we're talking about another 10, 15 minutes, maybe. I don't know the extension
Yeah,
you're
No.
Dan,
requesting.
do you have, I know we had originally planned, Dan, this presentation for about 15 minutes. So do you have
Yeah.
a sense of how much more time you'll need?
5 minutes.
5?
I have a
Okay.
question. Is it possible that we can get a copy of this PowerPoint?
Yes,
Yes,
definitely.
of course.
Okay.
Okay, 5 more minutes, Dan. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thanks-
so
thanks,
much. This is
Stephanie. And
fascinating. No, don't
apologies
stop.
for running over a little bit. So okay, so we're in Hyde Park right now. Just a couple of general points about Hyde Park. So a lot of historic rehab opportunities here. Salisbury Street really presents an opportunity for specialty retail and services. We think there are a lot of people who would be interested in moving to this neighborhood, given how much historic architecture is there. So a lot of our objectives are around that. Next slide. What is emerging then as catalyst projects? And by the way, the catalyst projects, these are the ones that are sort of, we thought were the most impactful, but there are many more recommendations than what you're seeing on the screen here. So Salisbury, make it more of a main street. Improve walkability between Salisbury Street, Hyde Park, and Windsor Park. So maybe think of like a green network there. Rehabilitate the Penrose Police Station. And that's an idea that's been floating around for a while. It's very important to the community. Next slide. So here you see just some high-level sketches. So on the left, you see this potential green connection between Windsor Park and Hyde Park with a lot of infill development along it. We think that could be that kind of green connector could be a real amenity that could attract a lot of infill development. On the right, you see a lot of infill development along Salisbury. Next slide. And so these are renderings. So we have renderings that are sort of like now short-term and long-term. You're looking at the long-term versions, the kind of full build out, what we should be thinking of, for 40, 50 years down the line. Next. Yeah, so JVL, what we're thinking about here is I think that is development along Grand Street for sure. We think there's a lot of opportunity there, especially with the Brickline Greenway coming. There's a lot of land. There's a lot of vacant land and vacant lots. So there are opportunities for kind of new agglomeration and new construction here. Next slide. So the priority projects here are rethinking doing infill development along Grand Ave, building on that Brickline Greenway, promoting the development of MLK Drive as a mixed-use corridor, and thinking about a kind of education campus. I know that this is another proposal that's been floating around for a while. The community would really love to see it. Next slide. Just going to look at some views. So this is looking at the intersection of Natural Bridge and Jeff Vanderloo. Again, this is kind of quite a bit into the future. Next slide. This is looking up Grand, so we're looking north at Grand. So at the very back of the screen would be the new PGA development. But what we're showing here is the Brickline Greenway running down Grand, along with some infill development. Again, long-term stuff, but because of our kind of optimism and some of the indicators around what we can expect out of NGA development, we are not shying away from showing quite a lot of development. Next slide. And this is looking up. This is so we're on Cass looking. If you made a right, you'd make a right onto Jefferson. So we're showing here the green link. Sorry, the green line. I know that there's some questions about the status of this project, but what we're showing here is this major node, right? If that this would be a really major node right across from the NGA at Cass and Jefferson, showing some development that reflects, I think, office, some of the office development and some of the retail that Jessica described earlier. Next slide. Okay, almost done, I promise. So in Old North, I think there's a lot of potential here to build on the existing revitalization momentum, for example, from the Crown Square redevelopment from 2011. We think there's young families, moderate income households seeking affordability that might be interested in this. So next slide, you'll see the kind of catalyst projects emerging here. So focusing development, implementing upgrades to the North 13th Street corridor, transforming the trestle into a unique public space, and exploring the potential for an urban stream restoration project. Next slide. So what we're looking at here is a new entrance to the trestle, which we think could be a really great amenity for this neighborhood. Next slide. Then St. Louis Place. St. Louis Ave is obviously a huge opportunity here. It's historic. It has beautiful architecture. Next slide. So I think the main objective here is to really think about establishing a cultural corridor along St. Louis Ave. Next slide. So what you see is just infill development along it, as well as infill development on either end of it. So on Florissant and on Jefferson there on the left. Next slide. View looking down St. Louis Ave with some infill development and Brookline Greenway. Next slide. Okay, I think I'm going to skip over the rest of this because I apologize that we've gone on for so long here. I just mentioned a lot of local neighborhood specific projects. There are some kind of shared projects that I alluded to earlier when I talked about the framework map. There's also a lot of zoning changes that are being recommended. Just to ensure that there's also quite a lot of vacancy analysis and a kind of strategy for looking at what kind of strategy we might apply where at a high level. So looking at where we might do side lot transfers versus infill housing versus consolidating and redeveloping parcels. Happy to talk about this more later if anyone's interested, but in the interest of time, I think I'm going to just wrap this up and just thank everyone from listening. And again, apologize for going quite a bit over here. There's a lot to talk about.
Wow.
Great. Well, thank you, Dan. Is that and thank you so much for taking us through this. Thank you for forwarding us the slides to review later. Thank you, board, for extending your time about 10 minutes. You've got some folks from SLDC in the room with you in the boardroom if you have follow-up questions. Otherwise, feel free to route any other questions or comments you have through me, and we'll make sure to get them to the planning team. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Wow. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Project Connect team. That was quite a presentation. I feel like there's a ton of information that was very hard to read on the screen, and also the limited amount of time that you all had to present. We would be very interested, as board member Calvin mentioned, we would love a PowerPoint, or however you want to best disseminate that, to take a deeper dive into this. It would be, it's a lot of work, and we're grateful. Thank you.
Thank you,
Can I
and we'll be
just
sure to
quickly
make that
have
available to you.
just one comment? My name is Otis Williams, and I'm new to the board here. But I go back to, I guess, naming it Project Connect. And so I'm extremely proud of what you all have done. And it's the format that I think we want to take to other neighborhoods. I mean, the process that you've outlined here. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions?
No questions. I just really appreciate the work you all have done. It looks great.
And
Thank-
and a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. I can't wait to dive into this and we very much appreciate it. Also appreciate everybody staying late. Thank you for your time. And thank you all for staying late to present. The meeting is adjourned.
Well, you need a motion.
A motion for, thank you.
Second,
We have a first.
I have a
Oh,
first, a
okay.
motion.
Thank you, Calvin.
second.
You really ready to go?
I thought that was a motion.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Meeting is adjourned.